UFC 309, Jones versus takes place this weekend, and I'm going to go through the entire card, starting with the early prelims, ending with the main events, giving my prediction and breakdown for every single fight on the card, starting with... Right. We move on. Basil Hafez versus Orban Elliott. Orban Elliott, massive fan of Orban Elliott. He doesn't like me at all, but that's acceptable. That's a sign of high intelligence, in all honesty. It'd be a red flag if you enjoyed me as a person, to be honest with you. I'm going to go with Orban Elliott. He's going to win the fight, yo. Orban Elliott's going to win. Basil Hafez, surprisingly, after taking Jack Della Maddalena to a split decision in his debut, looking yoked out of his mind, USADA doesn't test people on a regional scene. So how can they know that they're clean when they're entering the sport? How? How is that possible, UFC? Everyone in the UFC is clean. Well, that guy hasn't been tested once ever in his life, and now he's on the roster. That's a loophole right there. Then he looked awful against Mickey Gall. Absolutely awful against Mickey Gall. He won the fight, though. But I don't see him getting takedowns against Orban Elliott. And I think Orban Elliott's striking has come along a long way. Volume heavy. Maybe Basil Hafez is going to have a bit of a power advantage here, but I still think Orban Elliott's going to... I think Orban Elliott's going to out-volume him on the feet, out-busy him. I was watching the Mickey Gall fight again, and that was far too close for my liking of a fight for Basil Hafez. I had no idea how this happens. I mean, JDM might just get fraud-checked in his grappling real soon, guys. Maybe that's what we're going to find out at the end of his rise, which would be very sad if Bilal, subs him immediately. I'm still holding on to the fact that he injured his arm against Gilbert Burns, guys, and that's why he got taken down so easily there. He did break his arm, to be fair. And then he scrambled out of Burns' takedowns and knocked him out, guys. How did Basil Hafez have such a good fight with him? Didn't do any damage to JDM, but did spam takedowns, and for some reason, everyone just gave him the win. It was a very clear JDM second and third round, but all good. I'm going to go with Orban Elliott, though. I think he'll out-volume Hafez on the feet, and I don't see him getting taken down here. His grappling is extremely underrated. It's that Welsh grappling. I'm telling you, the Welsh have something going on with the grappling. Call it inbreeding, call it what you want. The Dagestanis laid the blueprint. We move on. Gall versus Brahimaj. Speaking of him, Mickey Gall lost the fight to Basil Hafez, now appears above him on the card. Logic. Absolute high levels of logic here. I am going to go with Mickey Gall to lose this fight. What a plot twist. You never saw that one coming, guys. I'm going to go with him to lose this fight to Ramiz Brahimaj. It's kind of tough to do that, but I just will never pick Mickey Gall to win a fight in the UFC. I have to imagine that the other person is working harder than him and is better than him. Ramiz Brahimaj hasn't had the best UFC career himself. Lost to Themba Gorimbo. Really stinky performance there as well, getting out grappled. Oh, God. Am I going to pick Mickey Gall to win a fight in 2024? The guy ain't beat Court McGee in his debut. That was in 2022. Am I actually going to go with Mickey Gall here? Is that what's happening in this prediction video? I think it's what's happening. I'm going with Mickey Gall. I'm going to go Mickey Gall. What a great performance against a beast in Basil Hafez, as I was just saying. So yeah, I'm going to have to go with Mickey Gall here, guys. No, Ramiz is terrible, which is worrying for me, because he basically got his career ended by Max Griffin because he got his ear torn off in the fight, if anyone's seen that fight back. And other than that, he's never looked good once ever, dare I say. I know it's disrespectful to break down fights this way, but the guy's never looked good once ever in his measly, pathetic life. It's unfortunate. But let's not forget he did get a huge win over Sasha Politnikov and Michael Gilmore. So let's not forget that. People forget, man. He choked out Sasha Politnikov, who had a great bout with Louis Koshke. People forget, man. I'm going against Ramiz, though. I'm going to go with Mickey Gall. I was going to pick Ramiz Brahimaj, but he is god-awful and shit. And Mickey Gall is at least a big welterweight, so I'll pick him to win. Mickey Gall gets this one done. Close decision, 29-28 maybe. We move on. Up the card to another fight, which is Marcin Tybura versus Janata Deniz. That's actually a welcome surprise on the early prelims. That's pretty decent. I'm going to go with Janata Deniz. I do see why people may be going with the underdog of Marcin Tybura. There is some good value there. I'm going to have to go with Janata Deniz, though. He's a slight underdog here as far as I'm seeing it. So, I like that. I really like that for Janata Deniz. I think he can, I think he's got the ability to pick up the takedown defense quite quickly. He was a really good kickboxer. Amazing knockouts on the regional scene as well. Really fucking flatline KOs. This guy's got real legit KO power. Tybura doesn't have that. Okay? And Deniz isn't some up-and-coming Collier or a surging Parisian. You know what I mean? To watch out for in the heavyweight division. He's not morbidly obese. Now, he's quite chubs. Don't get me wrong, I think I'm in better shape. But the guy is not morbidly obese. He's not morbidly obese. I can't believe I'm using this in a breakdown for a UFC heavyweight fight. Dare I say borderline just barely obese? Not morbid. We're not talking morbid here. We're not talking this guy might have to lose a foot to stay alive. There's an ab on show. Dare I say. Not bad shape. I think he's going to get better and better as the fights go on. Young in his MMA career, undefeated. I like that when people get themselves wins, they buy themselves time on the come up at certain times, to build the rest of their game. And Marcin Tybura is now 39 years old. I know he's had a lot of time in the game, and I know that maybe a couple more months, but I did just see him get easily destroyed by Spivak. Spivak's all right, I know, technique-wise, but come on, bro. Then he beat Taito Ivasa, who hasn't. Welcome to the club. It's a shame, but that's the truth. That dude was overhyped. But he's had a couple scraps. He got smoked by Tom Aspinall immediately. Obviously, that was going to happen. I just think that Janata Deniz has got the power to do it. He's had, 2 fights since then? Both of them have been decently scrappy. Lost to Sergey Spivak. I can see Janata Deniz getting a KO here. I can see him putting down Tybura with a jab. I'm going to put that out there. I can see him with his chin tucked, hands high, sticking Tybura with a jab as he tries to close the distance and getting a TKO win in the early rounds. We move on. Up the card to another fight, which is, boy, is there a lot of cancellations. Hold on a second here. Wow, what a weak card. What an absolutely weak and pathetic card. It's all good, though. We move on to Jim Miller versus Damon Jackson. Decent fight. I am going to go with Damon Jackson. Sadly, I like Jim Miller. I really appreciate him as a fighter. And I do root for him, and I am going to be rooting for him in this fight. However, the majority of people are picking Jim Miller like Damon Jackson ain't going to half-guard camp this guy. Am I seeing this correctly? Why won't you mold the way I want you to mold, you stupid fucking mustache hair? Sick of it, man. Damon Jackson's going to half-guard camp Jim Miller. It's going to happen. I don't know why people are cope picking Miller here. I can so see him getting taken down and held down by Damon Jackson. Damon Jackson's no slouch on the ground. Damon Jackson was making it tricky for Dan Ige in some moments in that fight. People forget, man. I know he got slept badly by Dan Ige, but people forget, man. He was getting, he was getting done over. He was getting some shots off on Dan Ige. Some takedowns. He wasn't getting any takedowns. I made it up. But people forget, man. He tried and failed one. No, the fight with Alexander Hernandez, he pushed a pace. He gets the grappling going. I just don't see Jim Miller finishing him early in this fight. I don't see that happening. And if he doesn't finish him early, I can so see Damon Jackson just wearing this old man out with some grappling. Like, Damon Jackson's not exactly young himself, but he's not, he's not Jim Miller, 36, younger in the game than Jim Miller is. I'm going to go with Damon Jackson here. Big dude for the division. I can see him grappling Jim Miller and making this really boring and getting a decision win from it. Sad as that is to say, that's what I see happening. We move on. Chris Weidman versus Eric Anders. Watch it. You best bring your goggles, Anders. Weidman's not done yet. He's got a division to blind before the end of his career. Okay? Making up for lost time. After all that time off healing up from his leg, he's back with vengeance. And those fingers are pointed and ready to go. I am going to go Chris Weidman, though. Listen, even though he did look shit against Bruno... No, I take it back. Even though he eye-poked the shit out of Bruno Silva and won the fight because of that, he still was just easily beating Bruno Silva with the wrestling working up against the cage. He looked terrible against Sharamagomedov, I get that. But he's all right, Chris Weidman, you know. Like, for a middleweight, really put this in perspective, yeah? This is the middleweight division. Weidman does do things correctly. If he hasn't got his leg snapped off, he does do things correct. You know, people forget, man. He came back and out-wrestled and outdid Omari Akhmedov, which was actually a pretty impressive win back then. I rate Weidman. I do. I don't think he's going to get beaten by Eric fucking Anders, who does have some power, but he's 37 years old, getting up there in age. He's struggling by a decision against Jamie Pickett. You know, these are guys Weidman doesn't struggle against. Like, I could see Weidman beating Marc-Andre Barrion. Anders loses, you know? And we go back again, and Eric Anders loses to Dorcas, loses to Park Yin-Yong. That's no shame. No shame in losing to Park Yin-Yong, dude. That guy's a legend. But this is a type of fight I see Weidman winning. If Weidman is to go back in there against a somewhat legitimate fighter in the middleweight division who's on the come up, like, I'd probably pick Reina Dorita against Weidman at this point. But, he's tickling my lip! But this is the type of opponent that Weidman beats. This is Eric fucking Anders. He's probably going to get out-wrestled by Weidman quite easily, and he won't keep up with the pace, and Weidman's got a reach advantage over him, and a height advantage. It's an advantage. And I think he's got cleaner work on the feet as well in the boxing, and it's not like Eric Anders has some devastating low kick game that we've got to worry about. So I'm going to go with Chris Weidman getting this one done. I think Weidman beats Pereira. No, I'm joking. No, Weidman will beat Anders, though, for sure. We move on. Jonathan Martinez versus Marcus McGee. Ooh, this is a tricky one. Because you could say, well, Jonathan Martinez didn't look that good against Aldo compared to other contenders in a division. But if you ain't holding him against the cage like a bitch who, you know, the Don in charge of America now needs to target first in terms of getting him, you know, back across that border. If you ain't holding him against a cage like that guy, you're in a problem. You know what I mean? It's a massive problem to fight Jose Aldo. And even though he didn't hold him against the cage, and people do remember him getting wobbled by Aldo in the third and outdone by Aldo throughout the entire fight, Jose Aldo, there were some moments of success for Jonathan Martinez, if I remember correctly. He was doing quite well. You know, he was low kicking with him at times, kept up in numbers. He just stayed in the fight the entire way through. You know, even though Aldo outdid him, and outdid him very well, he stayed in there. You know what I mean? Against Aldo, on the feet, and nothing but being on the feet with him. Marcus McGee, on the other hand, he is good, but is anyone else worried after the Kyler Phillips expose? It's not part one of a video series I just came out with. I'm talking about the expose that happened in the fight with Pedro fucking Munoz. And Munoz is a step behind Aldo. By far. Munoz is a few steps behind Aldo. And Phillips looks amazing against the up-and-comers and then gets fraud-checked by him. By Rob Font. Not Pedro Munoz. He got past Pedro Munoz. By Rob Font, who's steps behind Aldo. I'm using the wrong names. But my point still remains. Font is steps behind Aldo in terms of his game. And Phillips got absolutely fraud-checked by him. the bantamweight has like a barrier reef when it comes to like a drop-off in talent, which is crazy because even the unranked bantamweights are very good. But once you get into that top level, there is a huge plummet or a ascension to another level of skill that not a lot of fighters are ready for. Like, even if O'Malley had to run the gauntlet of like unranked or of top 15 ranked contenders, does he make it to the top? If Umar Nurmagomedov actually had to run the gauntlet of ranked contenders in the division, does he make it to the top in a title shot? You see them do that at bantamweight, and I don't think it's a coincidence. You know what I mean? They see a guy get ranked number 15, they go, give him number 2, 3, get him a title elimination bout now. This is a risky division for a prospect to rise in. I'm going to go against Marcus McGee, and I'm going to pick Jonathan Martinez to win. Marcus McGee's good. He's got solid striking. I just think Jonathan Martinez is very underrated, and I don't want to just say, oh, he lost to Aldo in a striking matchup for 3 rounds, stayed in there but lost. Therefore, he now loses to Marcus McGee. Jonathan Martinez has fraud-checked many another prospect. You know what I mean? He fraud-checked Adrian Yanez, schooled him, destroyed his legs. Said Nurmagomedov beat him. Very, very close fight, though, but he won the rounds that he needed to win, and that's impressive to me. Yeah, I'm going to go with Jonathan Martinez. I like his game. I think he's good. Striking-wise, I think he'll be able to make this one close. And I think if it's a close back-and-forth striking match, I trust the investment shots. I don't see Martinez getting chinned by McGee here. I think I trust his investment shots to the legs. I think that might be a difference, especially on the heavy mover that is Marcus McGee. Does a lot of silly footwork things for no reason, like Corey Sandhagen. Targeting the low kicks is normally the way to go. And Martinez has really nasty ones. So I'm going to go with Martinez getting this one done by decision. Very close, though. We move on. James Lontop versus Mauricio Huffy. Now, this one, should it be on the main card of a fucking pay-per-view in 2024? No. But he is a member of the Fighting Nerds. He's on the main card, and there's reason, because he's going to show out, I think. I think he gets a finish over James Lontop. TKO, brutal fashion. Mauricio Huffy, flow state fighter. I think someone may chin him at some point in his career. The way he fights. Same with Prates. Same with Gene Silva. I don't see these guys getting outstruck at range. I'm not going to ever pick a guy to do that against him unless there's a certain level of opponent, of course. But I can see a guy just chinning them. You know, those flow state fighters, they start reaching at the opponent's guard and it's all their way and their hands are really low and they're all confident, and then boom, they get wobbled and all of a sudden that shit's all over. I'm not sold on them yet. They are very good, and I'm enjoying the hype and the rise. It's Jamie fucking Malarkey, though, you know, like, he's all right. I think he's about Lontop level, which is why I'm picking Mauricio Huffy to win this. Lontop's good at range. I mean, he had a good fight with Vyacheslav Borshev, but he took a shit ton of damage in that fight. And that weren't that long ago. That's a huge factor. That is a huge factor. The guy has lost. Yeah, I'm going Mauricio Huffy. James Lontop came to the UFC with some level of hype. Lost both of his fights. Got beaten by fucking Chris Padilla, who's now gone on to be all right. Because he also beat another guy with an elbow, right? He beat Rong Zhu, I believe. Got him with an elbow, busted open his eye. So Chris Padilla went from being, oh my God, who's this fucking bum that don't belong here, to like, okay, he's got some good wins. We'll see what happens. But yeah, if Chris Padilla's taking you out in a round, Vyacheslav Borshev, he's good, but he's older, and he's a little slower, and he's not as big for the division. And he's putting a clinic on James Lontop in moments, even though it did get risky in some moments there. James Lontop is a good fighter. But I am going to go with Vyacheslav Borshev. Oh, what the fuck? I am going to go with Mauricio Huffy here. I'm going to go Mauricio Huffy. Looking forward to his fight. I reckon this should be a quick finish for him because, again, the damage that Lontop took in that Borshev fight was crazy. He took a lot of damage. And this is under 3 months later. I think the only reason he's taken this is because he might not have been offered another fight by the UFC if he didn't. Came in as a nobody, went 0-2. You got to be worried that maybe the UFC's not going to give you a call back. I'm going to go Mauricio Huffy. This is a desperation move by Lontop to take the fight. Mauricio Huffy, also very important to note, knew he was fighting on this card for a long time. They were just trying to find him an opponent. They found Lontop. It was like they're desperately, okay, we want Huffy on the card, but we don't know who's going to be his opponent yet. And they cycled through a bunch of opponents. And now they got Lontop. Yeah, I'm going to go with Mauricio Huffy getting this one done. First round TKO. We'll see. See if the fighting nerd spirit lives on. Vivian Araújo versus Craig versus Nickel. Paul Craig versus Bo Nickel. Now, you guys are sensing this as well, are you not? I don't want to be the lone guy saying this right now. We can all smell something in the air. This just seems like the type of fight that Paul Craig's going to win, and then Bo Nickel goes on to become a top contender, and oh my God, the only guy to beat him was Paul Craig. Does it not just reek of that? But honestly, guys, it comes down to this. We learned this with Gerald Meerschaert versus Rainer Derrida. It don't matter how good the fraud checker is, someday he himself gets checked for fraud. And I think Bo Nickel is going to knock out Paul Craig on the feet in round 1. Paul Craig's been competing. Listen, I like Paul Craig. And I think he's a funny dude. I wish I could pick him more so he would like me more. That seems to be the trend with some of these fighters and their moral opinion of me. I'll be honest with you guys. Paul Craig's good. But, dude, you've been competing in mixed martial arts since 2013 as a pro. Have we got anything other than a body kick on the feet? Listen here, guys. Do we have anything more than a body kick? A rear, heavy, slow body kick on the feet. Do we have much more? Now, I know Paul Craig is a seasoned vet. 36 years old. Physical freak, by the way. Crazy specimen, Paul Craig is. People forget, man. Dude's yoked. I could see Bo Nickel wearing him out a bit and then getting a chinning situation on the feet. Like maybe he disengages from where Paul Craig throwing up some kind of submission attempt and then they end up back on their feet and he just chins him in the first round. This could so be a fraud check for Paul Craig. I can smell it. I can smell it in the air. This is such an obvious fraud check for Paul Craig. Does anyone else see that? I know there's other people out there feeling this way about the fight. I know Bo Nickel should win. But god damn it, if there ain't something tempting about it. Dude, he submitted Magomed Ankalaev. Like there's, you know what I mean? This ain't Cody Brundage, okay? But one thing I do like about this is that Bo Nickel has had time off. A lot of people are angry at him for it. I kind of get it. If he loses, the hype is literally fucking done. There's nothing to the guy. I know people are thinking, oh, he's going to be a name regardless. This guy has to stay undefeated. Or his name value, as little as it is, will diminish. So I think prioritizing that is the focus. And to be fair to him, he's only been out for 7 months? You know, it's a little bit inactive for a guy who didn't take any damage against Brundage, but I rate the consistency of his early finishes early on. The guy puts people where he wants them. He's got nasty hands on the feet. I did say I could see Bo Nickel getting hurt to the body. He does look a bit soft-bodied. So I'm going to call if Craig does fraud check him, it may happen with a body kick on the feet. But I am going to go Bo Nickel. He's been destroying people. Even against Brundage, people are like, whoa, he got fraud checked. Dude, he got thrown once off a takedown. Other than that, he completely had his way with Cody Brundage. There were moments that got a bit scary, but he had his way with Cody Brundage. I'm going to say that he beats Paul Craig. Tricky fight for him, but this is a fight he should get by. It's going to take a Hermanson to fraud check Bo Nickel, or maybe a, I reckon I could see Cannonier. You know what I mean? If he deals Jared Cannonier and thinks, he's 40 now, I'll beat him. I could see Cannonier fraud, KOing Bo Nickel. And it's like, this guy is never going to be anything. And then I'll be like, but you never seen Chimaev versus Cannonier though, so what? How can you say that? You know, I'd cope. But I'm going to go with Bo Nickel. It's going to take a Cannonier to chin this guy into a fraud check. We move on. Michael Chandler versus Charles Oliveira 2. Scratch that. Why did they put them that order? Charles Oliveira versus Michael Chandler 2. Guys, you know it hurts me to do this. But I've been thinking about this for a long time. And I've been going back and forth, but I think I've actually settled on... I'm going to go with Michael. Charles do Bronx! Charles do Bronx! Knock out that disgrace, Olives! Let's go! Charlie Oliveira is going to get it done. Submish. People say... People forget, man. But people say Michael Chandler took down Charles Oliveira. Oh, no. Michael Chandler nearly knocked out Oliveira in the first round. Dude, Oliveira had his back. He barely escaped that situation. That's golden for Oliveira. He can get a takedown here. Shooting takedowns on Chandler, who's probably going to be spamming kicks early on, like a tard. I'm going to go Charles Oliveira. And I'm going to say Charles Oliveira gets it done by rear naked choke. First or second round, there's going to be some danger from some danger from Chandler, but I know he hurt Oliveira in the first fight. I know he did well on the feet against Dan Hooker in their fight. But then I watch other fights of Michael Chandler and I'm like, dude, you're just spamming body kicks against Dustin Poirier. It's working, but like this is not something you can do with someone who has a multi-varied layer of attack, you know? You ain't spamming the same move on Oliveira without him catching one of those kicks and taking you down and getting your back. Not going to happen, bud, you know? And that's the other fights of Chandler against Tony Ferguson. I'm like, he was literally on his way to being fraud checked. I need to stop saying fraud checked because they're top contenders at lightweight. But he was on his way to being like, it was looking like a bad night for Chandler at a certain point. I know he got Tony down at the end of the round. But on the feet early in that round, I was like, dude, this is Tony Ferguson. Do your thing against him. You know? Do your thing on the feet. That's what you should be doing. Paddy Pimblett did his thing against Tony Ferguson on the feet. You know? Do your thing against him. Don't get dropped. Don't get a worrying set of moments to where you need a fucking desperate takedown at the end of the first round against him. This is pathetic. I'm going to go Charles Oliveira. Chandler simply makes too many mistakes to be in a fight with a guy like Oliveira. And Charles the Bronx is going to rid us. If you know what I'm saying. We don't want this guy representing us, dude. This shit's weird as hell, dude. Everything about it's weird, and we want him gone. Who's with me, dude? Charles Oliveira is going to destroy him. Get a rear naked choke in the first round. After, like, getting a catch and a kick. Low kicking Chandler while he goes for a big explosive move. Chandler ends up on bottom. And then Oliveira is on him. Latching him up. Scooting round to the back. Rear naked chokes and he gets it. We move on. I got Charles Oliveira. And the winner of this fight is going to be looking for that McGregor fight, I reckon. Even if it's Chandler, he'll probably recall out McGregor like an idiot. Could go for Makhachev, though. Could just look for the Makhachev fight. But for Oliveira, I absolutely think the McGregor fight's an option. The Holloway fight would also be an option. But does he want to fight Holloway after he just got chinned by Topuria? Who knows? But that's something that he could look to redeem. And, you know, Holloway is coming off a win over Gaethje at lightweight. So that could be interesting. But for Oliveira, there's like another fight in the way before we start seeing him in the top conversations again. And also for Chandler, you got to consider, I know he's yoked out of his mind. Pass it on, Chandler. No, what a creep. Yoked out of his mind, crazy genes. But he's 38 years old and he's been out for a long time. You're going out after a long time out of the game. You know, you haven't fought since November of 2022. You've been 2 years out of the game now. I know he's been training, but 2 years out of the octagon at his age, when he's not used to being that inactive. Now all of a sudden you're going to be stood in front of Charles Oliveira at MSG. Maybe he rises to the occasion, who knows? I just hope for the love of God Oliveira puts this fucking bum out cold. We move on. Up the card. John Jones versus Stipe Miocic. I'm joking. Who cares? See you this weekend. I'll be doing a fight companion. See you later. No, I'm joking. I'm actually going to go Stipe Miocic, you guys. I've got a weird feeling. No, I've been seeing a lot of people doing that in the build-up. Like, this is where it ends for Jones. People are discounting Stipe Miocic. And don't get me wrong, I'd love for Stipe to fucking end him. And then Tom comes in and beats Stipe. And then John comes groveling back for a fight with Tom. And Tom goes, you know what? I'm not interested in fighting bums who lost to Stipe Miocic. How fucking bad do you have to be, mate? I'd love that reality. I really would. And then Jones is, please, please. And he gets hit by a truck. And the security jumps on him and stomps him out on the ground. And finally, justice is served. But that's not going to happen. Stipe's getting his eyes gouged out. If you don't think Weidman is going to activate something in John Jones's brain when he's watching that fight backstage, because that will be the series of events. He'll be walking into the arena around Jim Miller versus Damon Jackson. I'm telling you, he's going to be doing some light warm-ups during Weidman versus Anders. If you don't think that's going to give him some level of last-minute inspiration to gouge the eyes out of Stipe Miocic like the fucking Mountain versus, what's his name? Joel from The Last of Us. John Jones is going to get it done. John Jones. Oblique kicks on Stipe's old man knees. 42 years old. Stomped by John Jones's oblique kicks. Lead leg side kick. Stomp, stomp. What a bitch of a fighter he is. Then eye pokes, fingers out the whole time. Ref's not going to do anything about it. Couple shots land from Jones on Stipe. He gets the takedown. I think Stipe may survive round one. That's what I'm seeing. That's what I'm seeing here. I think we do see Stipe survive round one. I think in round two, Jones will do his thing on the feet. Maybe Stipe will land a few shots throughout the fight. Couple low kicks, maybe a calf kick or two on Jones. One of them probably gets caught, and that's what leads to the takedown. Round two, I could see Jones getting a clinch takedown. Stipe scrambling it, maybe getting back up. They're in the clinch. Jones holding him up against a cage, kneeing his thigh, stomping his foot, punching him to the body, kneeing him to the body. Gets another takedown. And then Stipe gets guillotined on the way back up. It does seem like a thing that may happen here. I think it's going to be hard to TKO Stipe from ground and pound. So I could see the guillotine. Stipe often does look to scramble back up in the north-south. And a guy like DC ain't going to jump that guillotine on you. So Stipe was able to scramble back up to his feet a few times like that. Jones is really good at locking down north-south and threatening chokes. Even Overeem nearly had a guillotine on him, did he not? I'm sure he did. I think Overeem nearly had a guillotine on Stipe Miocic. It was after hurting him, but it was a pretty close guillotine. So close that Overeem imagined that Stipe tapped. I'm going to go John Jones. Better everywhere. I don't know, though. I really want Tom to storm the cage and jump Jones if Stipe's losing too bad. You know what would be great, though? Let's talk imaginary scenarios. Obviously, if Stipe wins, yada yada, let's keep it realistic. If Jones looks shit, boos, the whole crowd's booing him. It's amazing. If this happens, Jones looks terrible. The whole crowd's booing him. Boo, fuck John Jones. Fuck John Jones. These are chants from the crowd. Aspinall, Aspinall. And the crowd is chanting Tom Aspinall's name here in round 3. And we got John Jones like, oh, come on, guys. Trying to win over the crowd. He's so desperate too. He's weird. He's gay. And then he's snoozing out these rounds, holding Stipe against a cage. Stipe's having moments, and he's the one trying to make it a fight. Oh, can you imagine? And then Jones gets another takedown. He's just laying there on Stipe, doing nothing. And, oh, wow, a jab at range again. Show us something else, John, you fucking idiot. And then people start not throwing stuff. Let's keep it realistic. But they're booing John Jones. Fuck John Jones. Chants start erupting in round 2. Round 3, the chant starts erupting of, not my champ, not my champ. Round 4, the chants start erupting of, you're gay, you're gay. And people are like, and then John Anik tries to disguise it and say, they're clearly chanting for Stipe here in the crowd, gay. And people are like, and then John Anik tries to disguise it and say, they're clearly chanting for Stipe here in the crowd. You're gay, you're gay. And in round 5, Aspinall, Aspinall. And then during John Jones's lackluster decision win, post-fight octagon interview speech, where he wins by somehow split decision, it's a robbery, this is perfect. Aspinall chants erupt in the crowd, and then when John Jones is retiring, they boo the fuck out of him. Boo. Not even a boo as in like we're angry at you, but like no noise. There's a golf. You know what? No booing. No booing. No noise allowed. You're going to think we're fighting in Japan. No noise allowed. One person can be heard screaming and clapping, and it's John Jones' wife after he jumps the cage and goes at her. There'll be a lot of clapping sounds and then her screaming. That's the only thing we're going to hear after this one, I reckon. That'd be great. And then Aspinall jumps in the cage. We could have more. Aspinall jumps in the cage, gets in John Jones' face. Jones pushes him. And then Aspinall goes, what? Sleeps John Jones in the cage. And then they resuscitate Jones and let's have some decorum here. Let's have some parliamentary procedure. And they start getting into each other's face again at the end. And Jones is like, all right, this time we're going to keep it professional. And then Jones pushes him. And then Aspinall goes, what? Sleeps John Jones in the cage. And then they resuscitate Jones and let's have some decorum here. Let's have some parliamentary procedure. And they start getting into each other's face again at the end. And Jones is like, all right, this time we're going to keep it professional. And then Aspinall's like, what, you fucking cunt? You ain't going to do shit, mate. And he's in his face. And Jones like pulls at his hair maybe. Something really sore. And then Aspinall just fucking body shot, rips him, TKOs him to the ground again with body shots. Khalil Roundtree starts stomping Jones out in the center of the octagon, booting the shit out of him, drags the belt off of Jones's shoulder, starts fucking smacking him with it while he's on the ground. And the whole crowd is erupting in joy for Aspinall, chanting his name. England flags are going up. We're in New York. Slaps DC. I don't know why DC had to catch a stray. But yeah, I'm going to go John Jones by finish in the first or second round. Like and subscribe. Thank you for watching. Toodle pip. I'll see you later. UFC Fight Night.